All right, so let's get started. So this is a quote by Paulo Freire, and it is, I think, even though we usually start with a quote by Maria Montessori, this one captures that very same spirit that she put into everything that she did. What the educator does in teaching is to make it possible for the students to become themselves. And that is the intent behind everything we do. Oops, hang on, sorry. There we go. Why won't you click? There we go. Okay. So in the past, we had these 4 pillars of LAM. We are in a transition period right now of moving from these 4 pillars into our strategic plan, which is currently being developed. And the 4 pillars that we have here include the 3 pillars of the new strategic plan with the addition of finances and operations. So we're going to be talking about each of these areas as it relates to the whole school. And we are going to start with academic excellence, and I will turn it over to Greg.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much, Karis, for starting us off. Our goal at LAM is to support all children to thrive academically, to succeed, to be prepared, to be lifelong learners, to succeed in elementary school, middle school, high school, and beyond on both an academic and also a social emotional level. To tackle a really specific goal that we are striving towards as a school, trying to help all students to be performing at or above grade level in all subjects. And we're trying to move from, recovery from instructional loss to everyday great teaching and learning, more fuzzy phrases, acceleration folks, use, including myself, to really sort of move us forward. And we are in an excellent position for that. We can go to the next slide. So yeah, we've covered a little bit of this in the past if you've been on other board meeting calls debriefing our PARCC scores last year, but I feel it's important to review in this venue how kids did on PARCC this past year. PARCC is a standardized test that kids take in DC and a number of other states aligned to the Common Core. The metric we've set for ourselves that we think is particularly important is we're trying to identify the percentage of kids who were deemed as, being by the writers of PARCC as being proficient or advanced, which PARCC gives kids a score of 1 to 5, so a 4+. You can see on the left for each subject that PARCC assesses, and it only assesses math and ELA, it doesn't assess Spanish, unfortunately. And there are science results as well, but the city hasn't released the full results yet, unfortunately. But for ELA and for math, in all grade levels, LAM kids, the percent of LAM kids scoring advanced or proficient were just significantly above the DC average. So we perform higher than the average of DCPS schools, higher than the average of DC charter schools as well, in all grade levels, all subjects, and across all demographic groups. Go to the next slide, please, to kind of dig in with a little bit more focus on that. So you can note that by subgroup that PARCC measures, and you can sort of see on the left here in each bar, the dark green is LAM in 2022, the other is sort of DC in 2022. There are some real highlights. I mean, I want to particularly note our special education scores moving on the left side of the graph to the right. Students receiving special education services at LAM just significantly outperformed the DC average by double-digit margins in some cases for ELA and for math, which is a really significant achievement of both our general education and special education teachers and all of our providers, our dedicated aides, so many folks who have contributed. We're really proud of these results. Similar version as we look at our English language learner scores, where again, we've outperformed the city average. We're not satisfied with where we're at. Like, obviously, I want to make it really clear the way we use comparative data to get a sense of where we're at in the city. As we said in the first slide, our goal is to prepare all students to receive a 4+. So as of right now, we know we have a lot more work to do. It's a multi-year effort. What we want to see each year is growth towards that goal. At-risk students in this past year did a little better in ELA, slightly worse in math, to be frank. We are working to increase the number next year. We're very excited.
Quiet. I have to listen to.
Oh, no problem. I think we may have great. We'll be talking more in a bit about the equitable access preference, but we are very excited next year to increase the number of children at LAM classified as at risk. Again, that's the city's term, not our term, but we use it. And we're continuing to grow in that area. We have some very positive data from our fall round of MAP data, but this is as of last spring. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. And yeah, of course, racial disparities, the so-called achievement gap, right, are smaller at LAM than DC overall, and we are making significant headway across all demographic groups. You can see that we are outperforming DC. We have also significantly reduced the so-called achievement gap between Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino students and students overall in this round of PART compared to other schools. So we are making significant headway, although we are falling short, of course, of where we want to be, where we need to be for all kids. But what we're looking for again is progress, year-to-year progress. If you don't mind going to the next slide. Of course, I also want to note there's another exam we test that it called the NWEA MAP exam. It's taken by millions of kids across the country. It's not administered from the state, but really a lot of schools in DC use it, a high percentage. We take that every year in the fall, in the spring, and in the winter. And something that is quite positive, sort of to see how we're doing this year, compared to last year, because that PARC data, that's measuring last year, right? From our fall MAP data done in November, our percent of kids scoring a high or high average, which is kind of like the equivalent of proficient or advanced on MAP, increased by 13% all points in math school-wide, by ELA 12 percentage points, and Spanish increased significantly. Kids' proficiency and literacy from 31% of children in the top 2 quartiles just at the end of last year in spring of 2022, and in the fall, 46% of children were the top 2 quartiles, with an increase of 15% of kids. Obviously, we're striving to make even more progress, but what we really look for in this as a school is indicators of course corrections to make or changes to do. So we're from the data that we've analyzed in a lot more detail with teachers and on a class by class and kid by kid level, we are confident of our plans for this year, and we've seen some significant progress and results. We're focused on implementing the plan we have better. If we gain different data, we would reconsider our plans, think of other bigger solutions, but we're focused on implementing the broad strokes, the broad direction of our plans that we have set for this year, with as much focus and integrity as possible. Next slide, and that may be the last slide, but I'm not. Yes, okay, no, it is not. So couple just broader goals outside of just PARC scores. Obviously, there's so much that goes into the school. I don't mean to be reductive with PARC, but we take it incredibly seriously as a external bar for how kids are doing, but there's so much else we're doing. So last year's list, we were, this summer, we worked to align curricular programs across levels and grades by creating a scope and sequence. We worked to collect and analyze data to sort of identify and build on what is working at the classroom level, to work with, honestly, teachers to have just routine meetings and contact with folks, observations and feedback to sort of find where things are going well and bolster solutions, which is sort of new systems that we brought in. We're pursuing AMS accreditation. That's the American Montessori Society, which really will help us to become a leader in the Montessori field, and honestly, really specifically helps us to do our program better. It helps us in all sorts of ways in terms of resources. Honestly, in terms of teacher and staff recruitment, it's a huge deal. We're very excited to be pursuing and starting that process. We're rebuilding school culture, community, and traditions. We've brought back peace ceremonies, family workshops. We brought back in-person conferences. We obviously have a ways to go. We're working bit by bit, we're always open to ideas and are trying to make a real push this year. But our classrooms have a focus on community as well. We're engaging in creating strategic development goals with an awesome consulting company called Compass that started their work with us last year. So we're in the phase of just nailing down an overall strategic plan. It's been a long and really cool process. And lastly, last year we said we wanted to determine if we are ready to use the equitable access preference. And I mean, frankly, we not only are we ready, we are now doing it. So we are partaking in the equitable access preference for this lottery that's going on right now. So which we're excited about. So we've accomplished a lot of our goals from last year. And next slide. So what are we looking for in the future? So a couple areas that we're looking to further align our sort of data tracking systems of how things are happening in the classroom. There's a tool we use for that called Transparent Classroom. We're looking honestly to just strengthen our alignment and our systems around data collection analysis with that, which we have certainly made headway with. Move further
No,
than
the
that.
prime minister is el principal, no.
Oh, no problem. We're looking to further pursue our accreditation with both AMS and outfit called Middle States, which we've used in years past. So this year we're doing both. We're following the strategic plan for academic excellence that we've created. And I would just say we have a growth mindset as a school, right? Like, last year, obviously, first year back from COVID, so proud of the work that everyone at Lamb did, staff, teachers, families, and kids. But this year, we really have a great opportunity to reflect more deeply on practice, on what's going well in classrooms, to take a step back and really sort of accelerate learning, being out of the absolute depths of the pandemic that we've dealt with in the past. And of course, we mentioned this before. We're excited to pursue the equitable access preference to deeply expand Lamb's reach, which we think, and the data backs it up, that our program is frankly quite strong, and we are excited to serve more kids in the city. So thank you so much.
Greg, there are two
Yes.
questions, one of which I'm
Yes.
going to answer right now. It's a question about an individual student's experience, and we are really talking at the whole school level right now, not even at really upper, lower, and primary levels. Questions about your child's individual experience should go to the teacher and/or to Greg or Michelle for elementary and Alex for primary. And we have another question. Why are white children scoring so much lower than DC averages in Park? And if I remember, this was something you and I talked about. We're not really sure, but when averaged out with the rest of the scores, like overall, we're scoring higher than DC. So that's something that not only we, but other schools, other charters have noticed too. And we haven't been able to do the data dive on that to really figure that out. Would that be correct, Greg?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And, certainly we're looking at it in broad strokes from an accountability perspective. We're focused on closing the so-called achievement gap. Again, I don't like that term. I use it because it's sometimes historically used, but we're focused on that. We're focused on providing amazing education for all kids. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read a lot of in-depth analysis on that. It's a really good question.
And a question just came up that why are Lamb math scores so low? What's being done about this? Yeah.
So jump in there. So MAP, we first administered during the sort of our second truly, major year of using it. We started it during the pandemic, the virtual learning, craziest of the pandemic years, and used it last year and this year. We've actually grown at each administration of MAP. So the number of kids are doing better at each administration. I want to really be clear, when the percentages I've given here are not like the average of scores. Because for me, we really want to give data about where kids are at, like in a more objective light. And the average, you could have kids that are scoring really high and find kids that need more support and get a overly rosy picture. We're using the metric of the kids performing in the top 2 quartiles on MAP because that gives us the most confidence that you're in a really strong place for the future. So we're actually quite proud of our MAP scores. We're making great progress citywide in terms of our comparative data with other charter schools and district schools that take MAP. We're obviously we're not where we want to be, but we're doing quite well. So we're proud of our growth. Definitely, for any school to grow and improve, it's a multi-year effort. It's not a instant results, but we're doing quite well. When you see those percentages like that's it's hard to say like that. We look for growth. We look for moving kids each year within each class. Yeah, certainly have a way to go, but we're quite proud of where we're at and stack up pretty well, quite well actually, compared to the rest of the city, frankly.
Yeah. And I'll take one more question here. What is the school doing for kids testing above the norms or averages? LAM should be following the kid.
Yeah, we are indeed. That's such a great question. One of the things that I love is we're constantly bringing in new works and new materials at all grade levels. So, our teachers in primary, lower elementary, and upper, it's been amazing to me the number of folks that we've actually actively promoted to get certified in Montessori in the grade level above where they teach. Not because the teachers want to switch classrooms, but because we're expanding the capacity of folks to, if you're teaching lower elementary, and we've supported people to get the upper elementary training, so you're ready to use materials with kids that are more advanced along that training, or similar version with upper elementary. We've had teachers saying, hey, I need new math resources for a kid. And we've certainly worked to just literally do that, find new materials and move the needle. So we're committed to following the child at all levels. So great question.
Thanks. All right, next we're going to talk a little bit about community and the school climate. One thing that I forgot to talk to you about at the very beginning was, as you all know, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, attendance has been a big focus for the whole district. The whole city has been working on that. We have too, including new systems and new protocols and things. But what you may not know is that we realized that we have averaged a little more than 10 staff members out each day since the beginning of school, almost entirely due to illness. And our focus, our number one focus, is making sure that all of our students' experience in the classroom is still as rich as we can possibly make it, and that everything is on time and rolling forward for them. That has put us a step or two behind on some of the other things, like processing all of the data from the climate survey and putting together a detailed report. So what I have for you tonight is a little bit high level, but there's still interesting stuff here. So the climate survey was built on one for New Jersey public schools. It was developed with reliability and validity for that state. They're using a new one now, but this one was open source. So we took it, we changed a few of the questions to be a little bit more in line with Montessori. And then in this administration of the survey, we added a domain for DEI. So each domain has a series of questions within it that all add to the domain score. And when we're looking at all the data, we sometimes dig a little deeper. We look at individual questions, but the big picture comes with looking at each group's domain score. So we administer this to staff, to families, and to students. We had very high participation rates this time around, some of the highest we've ever had with the survey. And we administer this in the fall and in the spring so that we get a comparison within the year as well as from year to year. So in this, and we are always looking for a baseline goal of a score of 3.5 or higher for each domain. That indicates a positive score. And as you can see, we have two groups where all the domains, the students and the parents, all domains scored at 3.5 or higher, which is really, that's very satisfying. That's the first time we've had two groups do that. And staff came very close. And let's see, I'm gonna go to the next one here. We'll look a little closer. So this shows the staff scores for the last 4 administrations of the survey. Spring 2021, fall 2021, spring 2022, fall 2022. So you can see this last pink one here is the DEI score. So I don't have the labels on this one. They will come in the labels will come in the full report. But we saw an increase in parent engagement, safety, and physical environment for staff. We saw a decrease and just a dip below 3.5 for teaching and learning and relationships. And we will be looking at both the positive scores and the ones that we have some concerns about that we're watching. We'll dig a little deeper on both the individual questions for those domains, as well as the demographic breakdowns to make sure that we are working hard to balance this across, to make sure that we are doing what we need to make sure that all of our staff feel that we have a positive school climate. So student scores are also strong, but you can, and by the way, we did not administer it last spring to students. There was too much going on at the moment that we tried to bring that together. So you can see that, again, all scores are above 3.5 for students. And that DEI score is very solid, a little bit above 4, and that's very heartening. But again, we're going to look at demographic breakdowns for these as well. We are concerned about that dip in relationships. For this round of student surveys, they were taken while the students were in the social emotional learning special. So it may be that they are that they are a little bit more reflective, that they've been thinking and talking about this a little bit more, and are a little more discerning around the questions. But it helps us figure out, you know, where our needs are in terms of supporting students and developing their relationships. I see there are a couple of questions in the chat about why so few responses from students. We have about 100 students in Upper L, and we do try and get everyone. Some students choose not to take it. It is a voluntary thing. And we tried to up that again by doing it in SEL this time around. Mostly it's designed for grades 3, 4, and 5. So it's harder for us to do it for lower elementary. It's again more voluntary for them. For parents, again, this is the first time for parents that all scores were above 3.5. DEI has a solid baseline score, and we saw a significant improvement in parent engagement. And we believe that that is reflective of the work that we have been doing to restore our community events post-COVID, really bringing those back, the on-site connection that everyone gets to make. We have some other indicators of school climate, including staff retention, which is similar, usually a little better than DC overall. We don't have the numbers yet for retention between last year and this year. Student attrition, we saw a little increase in attrition. between 22 and 23, but not a significant amount. Lottery, we are watching the current lottery numbers and we see a small increase in applications. It's too soon to know about the populations that we work hard to bring in, but we are keeping a close eye on that as well. And LAM continues to have the longest wait list, the most applications of any public school in the city. So in rebuilding community, again, this is one of the 3 strategic pillars identified by Compass last year and one of the central focuses of the strategic plan that is being finalized right now. The initiatives overlap considerably with the family engagement and DEI work. So you may hear about a couple of different things a couple of times, both in this presentation and in other reports coming out. And this fall, we worked really hard again to bring those families into the building, all of you into the building, and restore in-person events, including our peace ceremonies, the cafecitos, our parent workshops, the fall festival, various picnics and things like that. So before I hand this over to Maria Jose, there are a couple of questions in the chat about the 3.5 benchmark. So the domain score is on a score of 1 to 5, and 3.5 is on average considered positive. When you are rating each individual question, 3 is neutral, 4 is agree, and 5 is strongly agree. So we work towards that. 3.5 is our baseline. And then, of course, we're always working to improve all of those things. And a question about, do we do an exit survey for families to understand why they are leaving? We really work hard to. Last year got a little bit busy. So we didn't send out that survey. I don't know. Claudia, did we make it with that survey? Do you know off the top of your head?
We send it to all the families leaving the school. We collect some of the answers, not all of them send it back.
Okay.
Push for that.
But yeah, we look at that. Generally, it's as families are looking for let me think. In the past, and Claudia, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the primary reason for leaving LAM is to attend a school that's outside of the city because people are moving. Sometimes it is to attend a school that goes through middle and high school. But we work to break that down. No, we are not. We can't really share that data. It's such a small number in many ways that it doesn't. It's too easy to figure out who is answering what. So that the N size is too small to share that and maintain anonymity. But we do look at it very closely and we work hard to respond to it. All right. Maria Jose, are you ready to take over on DEI?
Sure. Muy buenas noches a todos. Es un placer estar con ustedes. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you today to share some of our progress on the different operations areas of the school. So let's start with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are on year 3 of a plan that we started. Today with Carrie, we're talking about, it's amazing that's already the 3rd year of this plan. We will be releasing, we're going to go over a more in-depth report about this plan later on. We will share the slides and a more in-depth report based on this, but I want to give you tonight just some overview of some of our achievements. Our vision for this plan, could you go back, Carrie, please? Our vision for this plan was simple, but very hard to achieve, required a lot of effort and a lot of thought and partnerships. and it was to provide equitable and cultural responsive experiences for all members of our communities. So really, we looked at every single area because we knew we needed to work in academics, in family engagement, and in every piece of what makes LAM to succeed here. Because of that, it was a very ambitious plan, and we moved simultaneously in many of the different areas. The next slide, please. So some of the highlights, and again, I'm going through a few of them and very quickly, so please feel free to contact me if you want more in-depth information. One of our priority areas was to diversify our staff. We know that we need to be more representative of some of our communities at LAM. Particularly, our priority is to have teaching staff, African-American or Black teaching staff. We have made progress towards diversifying our workforce. We do not have an African-American or Black Montessori teacher at this point. We continue to make efforts to get there, but we're happy with the progress we have made overall. We did hire a special education teacher and other folks from this community. We have made some good partnerships. We're in the second round of a partnership with Howard University. We just welcomed 2 new interns from them, and we continue to explore other ways to increase representation from that community. Another priority area was around our policies and procedures. Part of equity work for us is to make sure that all of our employees are fairly and compensated according to the years of experience, according to what they bring at the table. We are in the 3rd year of this project. The first year, we prioritized teaching skills. Last year, we focused on support staff, and this year, we're going to take an in-depth look at administration. So we are making sure that everybody knows where they should be based on merit, based on years of experience, time at LAM, education levels, and other factors. The third area is our training. We realize that for us to be truly diverse, inclusive, and equitable, we need to have the skills and knowledge and awareness to work on this area. So we are at every PD session this year, Professional Development Day, we have sessions on diversity, equity, and inclusion that's provided by an outside organization called Simply Lead. At the same time, we know that supervisors and managers need to have additional tools to support their staff on this area. So all managers are working with Kindred on a series of sessions that are helping us improve our abilities on this area. And then another piece for us that was important is how do we engage the community at large? How do we engage you in this process? Kindred has helped us with that. Last year, we launched staff and family groups that explored with Kindred different diversity, equity, and inclusion components. We're bringing those folks back to have conversations with the executive team so that they can keep giving us some guidance, ideas, and in certain way also accountability of how we're doing on that area. We will continue to explore with Kindred where we go from here. This is our second year of work with them. We have one more year to work with Kindred. Next slide, please. Student outreach. One of our areas of focus, particularly for Claudia's team, is on how do we increase Latino, African-American representation from other communities in our student population. We are on the third year of our lottery outreach and ambassador program. This is one of my favorite programs at the school, something I'm extremely proud that we're doing. This entails training folks in outreach, how to successfully engage folks, canvassing activities. Every Saturday for the next, for 4 weeks this month, we have folks that are going out to the Columbia Heights corridor, to different key areas, to just talk to people about who we are. We're also going to different events like a food bank distribution, where target populations congregate, to tell them about LAM, to help them learn how to apply, and to invite them to be part of our community. This has resulted in some increases in the positive direction of student representation. Of course, we want to do more. I have to acknowledge that the lottery is a barrier for us in the sense that even if we increase the number of people that apply, at the end of the day, it's a luck situation. If you're lucky, you get in. If you are not lucky, you may not get a spot. And as Carrie's already mentioned, and Greg, we are going to implement the equitable access preference. A lot goes into that. The decision to go into this was not an easy decision, required a lot of thought, preparation, and really self-reflection. Are we truly ready to bring these folks to our table? Can we provide all of the supports that they need in every area to make sure they succeed? So we're getting ready to make sure that they are welcomed as they should and that they have all the supports that they need from us. Part of that work has been to continue prioritizing our work with Title I students. This is in their access to base and in every area where we find a way to support the work that they do. Claudia and her team spend a lot of time reaching out to our families from this group to make sure we understand their needs and how we can better support that. And we know that okay, Carrie, I'm not sure what the last bullet means, so I'll leave that one for you and I'll move on.
That one may have been left over from the last presentation and accidentally got left in.
Okay, next slide then, please. Here are some photos. I don't know if you have seen it. I hope you have. We are once again having ads in buses, like bus tails, but also inside the buses. This is one. If you spot one, please take a photo, share it in social media, let us know about it. You see some of our folks getting ready to go canvass the neighborhood in this cold weather, and you see them participating in a community fair there. So this year we have expanded the name of the number of partnerships we have and the number of events that we are going to. So we hope that that means that we see an increase in applications from our target communities. Next slide. So what's next? As you can see, we have been very busy in the diversity, equity, and inclusion work. This was by chance that we started with a 3-year plan, and at the same time then we started the work of the strategic plan. We will not do another separate diversity, equity, and inclusion plan, because now that comes under the strategic plan, since that's one of the 3 areas of the plan. So there will be a very thoughtful plan in place. It's part of the strategic plan, not an apart effort. We will continue our work with Kindred. Again, we have 1 more year to go with them. And then we'll continue to work with the PTO, the diversity committee, admin, and staff to make sure that we are going on the right track and that we receive input and collaboration from the community as a whole. We will also continue to collaborate with other DC charter, public schools, and other community organizations that are helping us get our message out and also help us a lot provide support when families that need different types of help beyond the academic area. Next slide. Finances and operations. Different things that we have been doing in that area. First is new attendance procedures. I want to thank all of you for your patience and your support while we work through our new attendance processes. I know that process hasn't been always easy, and that has been sometimes frustrating. Trust that this has been equally frustrating for us. Different things collided here. OSSI implemented and developed new procedures they want in place. There's a new database that we're using for this. And we have developed for the first time at LAM a very comprehensive plan, attendance plan and procedures. So all of these things did create some of the frustrations or some of the discrepancies that you may have seen. We are aware of that. Trust us, we're working very hard to fix all of the things that need to be fixed. I think that most of them have been fixed by now, but we do have a few more that need to be taken care of. We will be announcing soon where do we go from here. Some things that I want you to be aware of is one of the partnerships that we announced before is the partnerships with Everyday Labs that comes through us through the Office of the State Superintendent of Education. So they get our attendance data. Based on the attendance data, OSSI gives them the list of parents or families that need to be targeted for communication. Because OSSI also has to figure out some of their data, climate things, there may be some discrepancies between our data and the one they provide to Everyday Labs. So I'm sharing this because you may get emails or text messages from Everyday Labs alerting you that your child hasn't been to school a certain number of days, and that may be incorrect. Please do not worry. If you get those messages, just contact us. You can disregard that. The important thing is for you and us to communicate to make sure that your data is correct. Besides attendance, and you see the next slide, and Carrie will cover that, we have a stable and strong financial foundation. We are working on finalizing the moving to 14th Street. We are very excited. This is one of the things I'm looking forward the most. Finally, our dream of having everybody under one roof is going to become a reality next school year. We have been meeting with the academic team to make sure that we have all our plans in order to close out South Dakota and welcome all our students, families, and employees from there here at 14th Street. We are excited about what that entails. There's a lot of work to get done there. At some point, our South Dakota families will receive more information about that. As if we don't have, go ahead, Carrie.
Before we go ahead and finish this slide, but we need to go back a little bit. I have some questions I forgot to ask. So.
Sure. As if we don't have enough things going on for next school year, we are also in the process of developing a new food program. Our dream has been, since we were designing and planning for the 14th Street building, to have our own kitchen so we can have our own meals program. We think that we are ready to implement that and move to that phase. We are going to be pretty soon looking to build a team for that. We'll be looking for a director of food services and wellness. And with that person, we will move to build and create our program. That means that we will not, our plan, if everything goes according to plan, next year, our meals will be made and provided in-house. We will be your vendor for meals. And our commitment is that they'll be good, nutritious, locally sourced, and believe it or not, be 1,000% improvement to what we currently experience. So expect to hear a lot more from this. We also will be looking for your input on how to go about and what is that you want us to think about and prioritize as we develop and implement this new program. And then we're working on other facility improvements. There's always things to do. One of our summer projects is to put a turf in the field. And then there's different projects that we have going on at all times. What were the questions, Kerry?
So I wanted to go back. We had a number of questions about our commitment to and prioritizing hiring African-American and Afro-Latino Montessori teachers and what we're doing about that, and are we continuing to work on that?
Yes, and I can get started, and I know that Greg has a lot to share on this. That is something important for us. We of course want to make sure that we have members of that community in every part of LAM, operations, finances, this and that, but we do realize and want to also have them represented in our teaching body, particularly Montessori teachers. We have looked at okay, where can we first we did an analysis, right? It's like it's not just an issue here, but as it's nationwide, there's less numbers of African American teachers. Thankfully, DC is a draw for them, so there's a bigger number here than necessarily in other parts of the country. So we first looked at okay, what's the situation nationwide? What are the barriers and what are the opportunities for us to recruit in that space? Based on that information, we developed a plan to help us figure out how to increase those representation from that community. That includes how are we publicizing these positions, where, making sure that we're participating in some targeted job fairs, creating partnerships. For example, the one with Howard that I just mentioned, our hope is through them, we get some interns that fall in love with Montessori, and perhaps one day they are our Montessori teachers in the classroom. Greg, are there other things you want to highlight here?
Oh, yeah, just want to affirm everything and echo what Maria Jose said, and just add in, I guess, one more context point and one plug, which is that, you know, as we were very happy last year and very thrilled to have a very high retention rate specifically of our Montessori lead teachers. Okay, and so that is a great situation, but it and so important to our school. But our openings vary from year to year, right? So sometimes we don't have a ton of openings, and at the same time, we affirm this is an incredibly important, unbelievably important strategic goal for us. So I would say, as we go through this hiring season, I mentioned this to everyone, we're of course trying to retain our amazing teachers. We're so excited. I'm very optimistic about next year based on my conversations with our teachers and how we're doing with our lead Montessori teachers. But I would say we're always looking to gain more applicants. So you can find all of our information regarding careers, positions on our site. You can my LinkedIn has a lot of pages. There's a lot of outreach out there. But I would say, if you know anyone who's interested in it, one just small note to our broader community, I'm happy to talk to anyone about teaching at our school, whether or not they think they meet all of the requirements, right? So you look at our website and it says a lot of information on there. We're excited. We have had folks join our team really successfully who are new to Montessori, who have taught in public schools and are great teachers. We sponsor training 100%. So a hallmark for our program. Some people for free, even internationally. We have folks that maybe are experts in Montessori education, but are working on either Spanish or English, and we're excited to pursue that route too, and find spaces. Bottom line is, share my email address. I'll drop it. It's just gregory@lambpcs.org. We'll talk to anyone, or they can always just apply. But please, if you know anyone, you have any contacts, we're always happy to talk. Okay, I'll leave that there, but thank you.
And well done, Greg, because someone just commented, hey, this is a great chance to bring in parent help. So yes, we lean on our community to spread the word.
And a big change we made, we analyzed, how do we bring Montessori teachers, right? And one of the things that LAMB is very proud of is that we build our own, right? We have identified over the years, like, amazing folks that come through us through support positions, base, what was before ELD and that, and then we grow them into Montessori teachers. So that creating a pipeline was one of the key strategies that we read, and anyone that we talked to recommended we should do here. So one of the things that we've done, and I'm very thankful for Taylor's leadership on this, as base director, we looked at it, it's like, you know, if that's how people get to us, who identify great people and then help them grow, then base should be also targeting and looking for African and Black members to bring through that. So base no longer focuses only on having Spanish-speaking staff. We actually now have 4 or 5 different members. They are not Spanish speakers, so she has done a great job integrating now a bilingual sort of communication in everything she's doing, and embracing and bringing people from other communities into this. So we have in base now African-American staff members, African, Afro-Latino, and we're hoping that, just like we do with the rest of our staff there, we identify some members that have potential and desire to move forward in the teaching space, and hopefully one day we'll send them to training and build them up there.
All right. There are also a few questions about everyday labs and opting out and getting phone calls. If you need specific help with making sure that you are being bothered or not bothered the way that you want, please talk to Claudia. She can help you with that. A question about costs for lunch, and DC Council is proposing free school lunch for all. So yes, DC Council is considering a proposal for the city to cover breakfast, lunch, and snack costs for all students in the city. So we would be reimbursed for costs for in-house lunch. Just so everyone knows, we currently subsidize our costs for the lunch that we are providing now, and we will probably have to subsidize our food program a little bit next year. The money we bring in specific to that program may not cover our entirely our costs, but we're really committed to doing that. Also, some questions about base for next year. Yeah, we are working on that and figuring out how we can make sure that we are able to meet needs next year. We know that this year was frustrating for many of our families. It was very frustrating for us too. We continue to do work as much as we could on that. Let's see, and some questions I'll just answer directly either now or in an email later, or I will include it in the wrap up because we only have 4 minutes left and a few more things to talk about. So again, attendance, this has been a major focus for DC and for LAM. So we are all working on tracking this better. Maria Jose already talked about it. Our goal is to have in-seat attendance at 95%. We are currently at about 90%. This is boring. This slide right here is boring, and I'm really, really happy to say it's boring because this is the overall dashboard that our board reviews every month about our finances. And those green dots mean that the key indicators are that we have a very solid financial foundation from which to work. We have been operating at a planned net loss for the last 2 years and this year as we get ready to move the last 3 classrooms over. The reasons why are complicated and you don't need to worry about it. We should be in the black next year. We had a clean audit this year, which we have had for the last few years, and 45 days or more of cash on hand. And we've had at least a 1.1 debt service ratio. We're currently at 1.2. Don't ask me to get too technical on that. That is Brian's domain. Facilities and operations. So this is our last year of having to comply with the BZA order items. We are currently restricted to an enrollment at 14th Street of 485. After we complete that final item, which will be the traffic study that happens this spring, if we are in compliance, that will be raised to 600. That will allow us to bring those last 3 classrooms over from South Dakota. We have no plans at this time to provide transportation from South Dakota, but we continue to explore options. It's a huge financial effort in order to do that, which I won't get into now, but we are continuing to work with people on figuring out some creative solution to that. Again, we're going to complete the kitchen, hire a food program director, so no Revolution Foods next year. I do hope to have some sort of Charla or presentation at a PTO meeting on our vision for the food program. But if you want any insight, go check out DC Bilingual's food program. There's a bunch of it on their website, and it's really inspiring. We will be working to install a turf field the spring or summer for next year in our sports field. And we are starting to build out our facility rental program. So yeah, there you go. And I'm trying to check out some of these questions real quick. Actually, let me make sure that this is the last slide. I think it is. Yes, okay. So Again, there are questions about facilitating the commute from South Dakota to 14th Street. Part of the catch of this is that we have been very clear from the time we moved into South Dakota that it was a temporary location. It ended up being a few extra years because of the work with the BZA. But it was always intended to be a temporary location. And while we know that transportation would be very desirable, it has never really been part of the overall plan. We do, we continue to explore options. We know that it would be much appreciated, but it would be a really heavy lift for us and to take resources that we need in other places right now. But we are working on it. Let's see. And what is the facility rental program? Maria Jose, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. As you can imagine, people around the city see our amazing building and they want to host their events there. We have received requests to host all types of events, from baby showers to bar mitzvahs to soccer tournaments to jazz festivals, you name it. So we're looking to do that. This year, we're only focused on hosting events that are related to our community or advance our mission and community relationships. But next school year, we'll be looking to roll out a program where we do rent the facilities to the community at large. So stay tuned. Of course, we'll also share that with you. So if you're interested in renting our facilities, that may be an option coming your way next school year.
Those are all the big major all school questions, and we are just a shade over. So I am excited to say thank you for attending our State of the School Charla and giving you back the rest of your evening. And we will be in touch about any questions that remain unanswered. And yeah, thanks so much.